When SHTF, the first thing to collapse might not be the grid, it might be your assumptions. Today we're here to challenge some of the most dangerous survival myths that have seeped their way into the prepper world. These are the kinds of beliefs that give a false sense of security. They sound smart, they feel safe, and they seem logical, but they can lead to disastrous consequences. It's easy to cling on to these myths, but if you truly want to be prepared for what's coming, you need to let go of these fantasies and face the stark reality. The truth can be harsh, it can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. It's time to debunk these survival myths and replace them with facts, strategies, and tactics that will actually increase your chances of survival. Let's delve in and debunk some of these prevalent survival myths. The first myth we'll tackle is, I'll just bug out when things get bad. This is a common belief, but it's dangerously flawed. You see, in a crisis, everyone else will have the same idea. Roads will be jammed, gas stations will run dry, and tensions will rise, leading to unpredictable and potentially violent situations. The belief that you can just pack up and leave when the situation worsens is a dangerous gamble. The truth is, if you don't have a timed exit plan and a pre-staged location, you're already trapped. Real survival demands preparation and foresight. It requires understanding the potential challenges and having a concrete plan to overcome them. So, it's time to let go of this myth and start preparing for the reality. Remember, without a concrete plan, you're already trapped. Next up is the myth, I've got a bunch of gear, so I'm ready. Now, it's fantastic if you got a closet full of top-notch survival gear. But here's the kicker, gear doesn't save lives, skills do. You could have the most high-tech, expensive equipment on the market, but if you don't know how to use it effectively, it's just going to weigh you down. It's essentially dead weight. Knowing how to start a fire, build a shelter, or navigate your way through the wilderness using a compass, these are the skills that will keep you alive when the chips are down. Training with your gear, understanding its ins and outs, is what makes you ready, not just owning it. So, invest time in honing your survival skills. Practice with your gear until you can use it in your sleep. Don't just collect survival gear, become a survival expert. Remember, gear without skills is just dead weight. Another common myth is, the government will step in eventually. This belief is comforting, isn't it? The image of a helicopter swooping in to save the day, of aid workers distributing supplies, of order being restored. But in large-scale disasters, help often doesn't come fast, if it comes at all. Consider Hurricane Katrina, where it took days for significant aid to arrive, or the wildfires that ravage the West Coast, where resources are stretched thin, and some remote areas are left to fend for themselves. The harsh reality is, in a true SHTF situation, you may find yourself on your own for weeks, maybe even months. If your survival plan depends on waiting for rescue, it's fundamentally flawed. True preparedness means self-reliance. It means having the knowledge, skills, and supplies to weather the storm no matter how long it lasts. Remember, if your plan depends on rescue, it's not a survival plan. The fourth myth we'll debunk is, I'll hunt and forage for food. It's an attractive idea, right? Living off the land, self-sufficient and free, but the reality isn't so romantic. The first problem? Competition. If everyone else has the same plan, local game populations could vanish fast. And as for foraging, it's an unpredictable source of sustenance at best. You might get lucky, or you might waste precious energy on an empty-handed search. Furthermore, hunting and foraging skills take years to master. Without them, you're just another hungry amateur in the woods. So, what's the solution? Stockpile and rotate your food supplies now. Invest in long-life staples like canned goods and dried foods. Learn to preserve fresh produce. And by all means, learn to hunt and forage as a supplement to your stockpile, not as your main survival strategy. Relying solely on hunting and foraging is an unreliable survival strategy. Next on the list is, I live in a small town, we'll be fine. It's a comforting thought, isn't it? The idea that being far from the chaos of the city will keep you safe when the world goes sideways. But let's unpack this myth a bit. Sure, small towns have their advantages. They're tight-knit, often self-sufficient, and less likely to be primary targets. But they're not invincible. Resource shortages can hit anywhere, and small towns are no exception. When the grocery shelves go bare and the gas pumps dry up, it doesn't matter how small your town is. And then, there are outsider threats. Desperate people do desperate things, and a small, self-sufficient town can look like a tasty target. Lastly, don't forget internal conflict. Stress, fear, and scarcity can turn neighbors against each other, even in the friendliest of small towns. No community is immune to a crisis, no matter how small. The sixth myth is, I'll defend my property no matter what. This may sound heroic, but the reality of a crisis situation demands a more nuanced approach to defense. The truth is, defending your property is not about bravado or stubbornness, it's about strategy and adaptability. When societal order breaks down, scenarios change rapidly. You may find yourself sleep-deprived, outnumbered, dealing with the stress of days without power. In such situations, a head-on defense could be a risky proposition. The smart approach is to know when to retreat, when to hide, and when to deter. Think of your property as a chessboard. You don't keep your queen in the front line, do you? Similarly, you need to strategically position your resources, create diversions, and utilize natural barriers. And sometimes, the best defense is a good escape plan. Remember, survival is not about proving a point, it's about living to see another day. Defense must be smart, not stubborn. Next up is the myth, "I'll just blend in when SHTF." This is a common misconception that can lead to a false sense of security. The idea that we can simply blend into the background when things go pear-shaped is not only naive, but it's potentially dangerous. You see, if you're the person who always has plenty, who always seems well-prepared, people will remember that when times get tough. They'll remember who had resources, who had the foresight to plan ahead, and when resources become scarce, those memories will come to the forefront. This is why operational security, or OPSEC, is so vital. It starts before a crisis hits. It's about being discreet with your preparations, not drawing attention to your resources and not standing out, because when the chips are down, the last thing you want is to become a target. Remember, blending in starts before a crisis hits. Another common myth is, "My group will stick together no matter what." It's a comforting thought, isn't it? The idea that in the face of disaster, your group of trusted allies will remain unshakable, steadfast, and united. But the harsh reality is, under extreme pressure, most groups tend to fall apart. Why? Because crisis situations expose and amplify underlying tensions, differences, and power dynamics that can fracture even the closest of groups. This is why it's crucial to test the strength of your group now in relatively calm times. You need to establish clear roles, rules, and readiness plans. Who's in charge? Who's the medic? What are the protocols for conflict resolution? These are things you must define and agree on before a crisis hits. If you wait until the storm arrives to start preparing, it might be too late. Remember, your group's roles, rules, and readiness must be defined before a crisis starts. The ninth myth is, bartering will fix everything. It's easy to imagine, isn't it? You've stockpiled extra supplies and you'll trade them for whatever you need. But bartering isn't as simple as it seems. It's not just about having goods to trade, it's about finding someone who needs what you have and has what you need, and in a crisis, that's a tall order. What's more, bartering only works if there's trust. But let's be honest, during a crisis, trust is a luxury that often goes out the window. Desperate people might not barter fairly, they might manipulate, they might steal, they might turn on you. So while bartering could be part of your survival strategy, don't make it your only plan. Stockpiling supplies for yourself and your group should be your primary focus. Remember, fair bartering requires valuable resources and trustworthy partners. The final myth we'll debunk is, we'll just wait it out. Waiting out a crisis sounds like a reasonable plan. After all, everything passes with time, right? But here's the hard truth. Some crises don't pass. Some emergencies transform the world so drastically that there's no going back to the way things were. In these scenarios, waiting it out isn't an option. You're not just riding out a storm, you're adapting to a new climate. You're not just surviving a crisis, you're learning to thrive in the aftermath. You're preparing for a new way of life. So when you plan, don't just plan for the first 30 days. Plan for 6 months. Plan for the long haul. Think about sustainability, about self-sufficiency. Stockpile, but also learn to grow and preserve your own food. Learn skills that can't run out, break, or be stolen. Remember, you're preparing for a new way of life, not just a storm. We've debunked some of the most common survival myths. It's clear that survival is not about luck or chance. It's about preparation, knowledge, and adaptability. Whether it's the misconception of simply bugging out when things get bad, or the belief that a stash of gear is enough, these myths can lead us down a dangerous path. The government may not always step in, hunting and foraging may not be viable, and even small towns are not immune to disaster. Defending property, blending in, sticking together, bartering, or waiting it out are all strategies that require careful thought and planning. Survival is not about sticking to assumptions, it's about challenging them. Always remember, it's not the strongest who survive, but the most adaptable. Hit like if you've seen these myths pop up online. Drop a comment. What's the survival myth you hear the most? And subscribe for more raw, real-world prepping content built for the days ahead, not just theory.